Terrible.
Nope. The broadcast is live.
Okay, well, that was a really bad note to start off on. But
Yeah.
Rabbi Kiva, it's so good to see you.
Hello. And welcome back to episode number 6 of The Schmooze.
The Schmooze, that's right. The Schmooze with Rabbi Kiva and Daniel Geller, where we discuss ideas, innovations, exciting things, and maybe some not so exciting things happening in our communities. It's so good to be back here with you. Rabbi, what? I haven't seen you in a week. What's new? What's the good word?
Here's the news on The Schmooze with the Jews. Don't blow a fuse and don't be confused, but check my Facebook profile. I asked a question today, which was, would you rather work like crazy, like work really hard, and be able to retire and make a lot of money so you can retire at 65 and retire at 65 and then be, you're good, you got your time, you have your next 40, 60 years on this earth to enjoy? Or would you rather, what?
All right, I'm following so far.
That's good. And or would you rather go till 80, work till 80, but not have to work as hard? So you have more time kind of like throughout those working years where you got to enjoy a little bit more.
I don't know. I disagree with the premise. Like, I don't like the two options.
Oh, that's what someone else said. Not most people didn't say that, but someone did say it. They said like that. Those aren't the only two options. There's other options.
Those are terrible options.
What do you say?
It's such an American perspective. Like, oh, you're going to work hard for your entire life, in essence, like 65, you're passing your prime, and then you're going to be able to enjoy. But like, you want to enjoy life when you're in your prime, I don't know. I disagree with this. Like, nah, this one doesn't work for me. I'm not interested.
You're out. Well, 18 other people were in, and they commented. So go check it out for anyone.
What they said. Oh, I have to go look at your Facebook?
You have to go look at my Facebook profile to go check it out and see what
people.
There were some people just said 80 or 65, but some people brought some really interesting perspectives.
Okay, well, I'm probably not going to look, but thank you so much for bringing that to our
we're friends.
Before we move forward, we'd like to thank our Schmooze sponsor of the week, the Results-Driven Innovation group led by Meira Spivak, a tremendous friend and colleague. And it's really just everything you're looking for, in helping you think inside the box, as she puts it, is really just an innovative approach to think differently about how we conduct everything we do, our business, our nonprofits, our for-profits, whatever we do, to take what we're already doing and enhance those factors just a little bit. I think is a tremendous service, and we're very grateful for Meira for sponsoring and her group. And feel free, definitely look at her website, meiraspivak.com. Meira is a seasoned speaker and known for motivating her audience to take action. She teaches techniques in structured creativity using the SIT method, systematic inventive thinking, which I believe there's actually a whole book and courses on.
It's the best kind of thinking. It's incredible. I mean, I've read the book and I've taken some of the classes and I've listened to read Meira's blogs and listened to some of her stuff. It's mind blowing in the sense that your mind is literally blown. That's just, I was explaining what I meant by mind blowing. You start looking at the world in a completely different way. You start thinking differently. You start thinking creatively, and not in the most unorthodox ways. Still not talking about Judaism. In the most unorthodox way of thinking, you just look at the world in a different way. It's amazing.
Right. So everyone, I encourage everyone, even just to read her blogs, is definitely worth it. Head over to her website, meiraspivak.com. It is in the banner at the bottom of our show today. And thank you to her group, the Results-Driven Innovation, for sponsoring today. All right, Rabbi, what's the hack? What are we talking about?
So I was just in Texas yesterday. That's not true. But I saw this article popped up on one of my many news feeds. And I'm not sure if you saw it. Did you see about this grocery store in Texas? Of course you did. I sent you the article.
Right. Only because of that. Otherwise, I don't read Texas local news. So
got it. So, yeah, as the mayor of Texas, I have to. And, it's one of my side gigs. Schmooze is my main. It's my day job. And then at night,
right,
Texas.
So what happened in this Texas town?
So it's pretty awesome. They created, I don't know if you can share the article. Do you have it up?
I'm actually doing that right now. Wow.
Check out the article. We're about to pull it up. They created a store. And this actually goes back to the SAT way of thinking, going back to meiraspivak.com. This goes back to just looking at what you have around you and thinking differently. Meaning they made a store in their school that doesn't run on money. And you gotta like think about that. Like, okay, store, no money. What? Like, it doesn't even like you would never even think that. But someone, I actually didn't catch the name. I don't remember the name of who started it. Said like, let's have a store where the currency is not money. Okay, the currency is not money. The currency is good deeds. What a beautiful thing.
What's the metric for good deeds? How, like, I'm saying I did a good deed. It's like kids who bring in mitzvah notes in kindergarten. Is that
literally that? Literally that. I didn't go in an article that I saw. There might have been more, other articles I could have looked at that. It didn't say exactly how you prove your good deed. I'm sure there's like some type of either like a note or maybe something digital that you have to put in. But basically, depending on the good deeds that you do, that's the currency for purchasing actual items in the store. The store obviously. You obviously need to get money from somewhere, and this goes back to the way of thinking. It's called the book. The book is called that talks about this way of thinking, Inside the Box. Obviously written by two Israelis, and I'm only going to go into one of their methods of how to look at the world creatively. It's called subtraction, where you take an object and you subtract something that you would think has to be part of that object, right? Like imagine if I had a bicycle,
okay,
and I took away a wheel.
Probably a bicycle, because bi means two.
Right.
So.
What do I have?
A unicycle?
I have a unicycle. Someone was like, hey, what if we did this, but with one wheel?
Right. So I actually have a real world example of this because I can't relate to bicycles or unicycles.
That was a fantastic real world example, but also go with the store. Someone's like, hey, what if we had a store that didn't cost?
They took away money. Okay.
Money. They subtracted money and they said like, what else can we get? Well, I don't know their exact thinking, but I'm assuming they started from the point of we want to help the world become a better place. We want to also, I don't know exactly, empower these people, whatever, do good deeds. And they partnered with local nonprofits who help fund the actual purchasing of the items. And the students who come in, purchase it with good deeds. That's innovation.
Okay, no, I'm about that. I can get behind that. It happens to be Amazon also tried this model, not like the generosity model.
Yeah, Amazon.com isn't free, I think, for good deeds. I called up Jeff Bezos.
Okay.
He was all like,
when Amazon set up their Amazon stores, which was kind of like counterintuitive because they're the online store and then they created like the stores that whatever.
Right.
They took subtraction to like a more significant level by getting rid of cashiers, and cash registers.
Exactly.
So,
subtraction. Exactly.
By some incredible technology standard, they were able to determine what was in your cart, and you were just billed to your Amazon account as you left the store. For sure. But that's not what our show's about. We don't really talk about Amazon so much.
It's actually the question at the end of today's show. I didn't tell it to you, but it's actually an Amazon related question.
Okay, so maybe we.
Imagine? Oh, I heard a great joke. What blessing do you say after shopping online? Beer Crunch, Amazon.
See, the problem is the problem isn't that the joke's bad. The problem is that you hype it up by saying you heard a great joke.
I think the issue here is that your complete lack of sense of humor. You're missing the humor part of the joke. It's because it sounds like Birkat Hamazon. I'm just explaining.
No, I completely understood. Not to mention, I answered the correct answer.
I couldn't hear you. I was talking over you.
Oh, great. That checks out. So moving on from all of these shenanigans, because we're already 9 minutes into our show. And
we're talking about all innovation. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, okay. Amazon's not like a new innovation.
No, but the high school. Like, how could we bring something like that?
That's exciting. And it happens to be, I think it's something that we see, taking away the monetary aspect, because so much about the Jewish community is nonprofit oriented.
Right.
So some of the best products or services that you're going to find in your community are coming from people who are fundraising to be able to provide that service. And I think, we saw this week the Chabad Kines HaShlochim, which is usually a convention that takes place in Crown Heights, right at 770.
Right, with like thousands of people.
Thousands. And they're all, it's not like they were, everyone views Chabad like, oh, they all have like headquarters Chabad, 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. Okay, no. Is
that their address? I have no, are you sure?
Yeah, no, this is like a very well-known thing.
I was joking.
Okay, so again, it wasn't funny.
We don't.
Okay.
We gotta. Birkat Amazon.
Please write a report and tell me what I have to do, and I'll do it. So anyways, going back to something that actually matters. So they usually have this gathering in Crown Heights, thousands of Chabad emissaries coming from around the world to. I've never been. I know people who go every year, and it's like they're like Hajj. They're like what is that thing when everyone goes to Mecca?
Yeah,
Muslims. Whatever.
I haven't been to Mecca yet, but
I can't imagine why not.
Dubai.
Okay, it's happening. It's gonna happen one of these days. But to think that they took away this concept, like I love pilgrimage. Boom, fantastic. Thank you for that. We do. We connect on some levels. So to think about this massive gathering in which what did Chabad do? And I love like the first time I ever walked into a Chabad, the first thing I came from the conservative movement. So it was like dues. Like you pay for this and you get X services. Okay. And Chabad, they're like, you don't have to pay to pray. Like you come in whenever you want. We are always here for you. Anything, like however you want to get involved in your Judaism, we're there to be a part of that process every step of the way. And I think that's what we see, really, the innovation that happens in the Jewish community. I think also Eli Bir, United Hatzalah.
Oh, yeah.
United Hatzalah, based in Israel, is a free paramedic service. It's entirely volunteer based, and they have thousands of volunteers who can answer the call in 90 seconds.
It's crazy.
You don't have time to wait for the government's ambulance service. So your neighbor who's a trained medic is there for you and at no charge. Like it's volunteer. And I think that's really when we talk about innovation, everyone wants to look for the new shiny thing. But I think on the most basic levels, sometimes you can see the beauty of what our community has to offer, not charging for essential services.
It's great. And I love what you're saying. And it's just, I watched the McDonald's documentary yesterday on Netflix. Okay, so I'm like, I was up till 4 a.m. after not watching the show, but afterwards, just like thinking like, there's so much innovation you could do. Like you just, even just in that show, like, okay, the main thing in that show is the fact that like they took the concept of food, which was like restaurant, and like no one ever thought of getting food without a plate. It was just like, you just subtract the plate. And then, but like, here's something that a lot of people that I don't know, maybe people didn't notice it. He walks into the bank. Did you watch it? The documentary?
No. It's called Founder. I know it exists on Netflix.
It's so good. It's not a documentary. It's not a real way. I mean, but it's so good. And there's some profanity for anyone who's
sensitive.
Minding that what?
So to anyone who's sensitive for
that. But anyways, but the guy goes into the bank at one point in the movie. Banks used to be like these massive, like beautiful structures with like everyone had a desk and like a lamp and like, it was like you would think you're walking into a 5-star hotel lobby the way banks used to look. Okay. There used to be food. I think Bank of America used to have a restaurant as part of your service. Like you would come in and you could have plates and dishes and things. Someone looked at that at one point and was like, wait, what are we doing? We're not a restaurant. We're a bank. And they subtracted a whole bunch of things. And when you subtract a whole bunch of things, you're able to really get down to the core. And you're able to actually tap into resources that exist within your immediate world that you never would have thought of.
Fair. I don't know if that subtraction really appeals to me as much because I don't know what was gained by them not offering food.
Thousands or millions of dollars saved.
Okay, fine. So but I'm saying from a customer experience perspective. That seems to be.
I don't look for food when I come into my bank. Like if I'm looking for a good schnitzel.
Okay, you're right. You're not paying for food, but it's like the little things, in customer service.
Okay, fair, but I think the point is that you can change a whole lot without having to like, well, who am I? I can't change anything. No one's giving me $1 million check. Of course I can't. I'm no Elon Musk. I'm no whoever. Like who am I? I don't think that's true. I think that we have to start thinking differently and start thinking about the resources and especially in the Jewish world, we're so tight knit. We're so just a small people that we have a lot to tap into that we can really help each other. Like you just said, it's Hatzalah, medical services mixed with Uber. Like who thought of that? I mean, Eli Bir, but like,
right.
Right.
It happens to be Eli Bir's story. He has a TED Talk on it. I highly advise it. I'm going to post a link later on our pages.
Right.
Definitely worth the watching because it's his TED Talk of how he created a life-saving organization.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing more sacred than really devoting your life, as so many of his staff and his volunteers have done, just to be able to say, if I'm in the position to help someone, that's what I want to be doing. So, and I think that's what we see all over our community. You know, it's interesting because I was paying attention, and yes, we're not going to get into politics, but paying attention to the amount of Jews that are in the limelight right now. You know, there's so many Jews in the spotlight of national and international politics.
What do you mean?
And I'm saying,
We
presume.
can get into politics. I'm fine with that. I mean, we don't have to make it a political episode this time around, but
Like, we're not
we're
going
not
to.
allergic to politics.
So no, but to
You know
think,
what politics means, right?
I do know what politics. is.
Poly means a lot of, and ticks are blood-sucking parasites.
No,
No?
you're.
That is the actual translation.
This is why people turn us off. 'Cause,
Birkat Amazon.
again, you're 0 for 3. 0 for 3.
I hear how you're 0 for 3. Yes. Okay. Anyways, you were saying.
Anyways, so there are all these Jews in the spotlight right now. You know, presume President-elect Biden's Secretary of State nominee is Jewish. His Fed chair, Treasury Secretary nominee is Jewish. You know, his Homeland Security chair secretary is Jewish. Like, you're talking about a lot of Jews holding serious positions of influence and decision making. And to think we're 1.7% or 1.8% by some numbers of the U.S. population.
Right.
You know, like, to think
Very small.
You know, right. And think, like, going back to Ellie Beer, Ellie Beer's model is now being exported to countries all over the world because it's so successful. And that's what we do. There was, you know, it's a big thing by Sigmund Freud. Freud wrote this, you know, wrote a lot about the Jews. He was also he's Jewish, he was Jewish. He's no longer with us. But his
It took a while, you know.
Yeah, for very fair. Sigmund Freud, you know, big, I don't know if you pillar of modern day psychology or however we want.
Founding father in a way.
Sure, we can go that direction.
It's like Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, and a good old Sig. No, nope. We'll stop at Yaakov. All right, back to you, Dana.
Great, really good contribution there, Rabbi Akiva. So, but his idea, why are the Jews so successful? You know, we see it even in his time. He saw the contribution that they bring to the world and the greater community, not just the Jewish community. You know, and his idea, I think, was just, it speaks to the root of who we are, because, I mean, what he calls an abstraction and we'll call faith, but because we have such an abstract view of God. You know, we believe in this omniscient power that is all-knowing, all-powerful. He was, he is, he will be. You know, he doesn't exist within time, and plays an active role in the world. Once you believe in that, by Freud's definition, like, nobody can tell you no. You know, so when you look at all these startups coming out of the Holy Land and in Silicon Valley, run by Jewish companies, Jewish organizations, it's because, like, once you believe in God, nobody on earth can tell you that what you're doing can't be done, isn't important enough.
That's fantastic.
That's
really good.
And I think that's prevalent where everywhere you look in the Jewish community and the Israel community, wherever it is. I met with someone this summer. Oh, okay. Like this
story time. Is this story time?
It's not really story time. He was telling me,
though. I feel like it should be. Here we go.
Right. No, he was telling me an idea, and I just would have never in my lifetime, you know, it is really one of those, like, I would have only heard this by meeting with someone in the tech sector in Israel. Okay. So he was discussing all these, like, different projects he's working with. And then he said, you know, one that's really fascinating is that they want to cross, I'm not a biologist, so I'm going to butcher this no, never. Okay. Never. Right. In every possible way. But they want to, like, splice the genome between a firefly and a tree, so they can make bioluminescent trees.
Stop.
So in areas in the world that don't have access to electricity or can't set up proper lighting, like, at night, they'll be able to, the trees will light their villages. And
I don't know if I'm like, wow, that's genius, or I'm like, okay, the apocalypse is now officially coming. Like,
so I thought the first thing. I not at all thought the apocalypse thing. But,
like, okay, it's a very small step from splicing genes from trees to fireflies to creating zombies. It's a very small step. All science fiction books and movies, right before the zombie apocalypse hits, the trees and fireflies are like,
you know, the key word in science fiction is fiction, right?
pretty sure the emphasis is always on the science. That's why it's the first word. Science fiction.
I disagree with that premise. I don't think the first word is always the most important.
I have 2 words to say to you, and then I want to move on to the next question.
Okay.
Birkat Amazon.
Again, wasn't funny the first. Definitely wasn't funny the second time.
It typically gets funnier as it goes on. I have a question for you. This is not planned. I'm not sure. Can you hear the banging from my kids? Is that disturbing?
No.
Good.
If any of our viewers want to chime in, all one of you, if you wanna say if you hear banging, feel free to let us know.
It stopped. Maybe they heard me. So
they're watching.
I have a question for you. In terms of innovation, we're talking about innovation in high school and subtraction and innovation with Chabad and Hatzalah and people looking at things differently. What you're big on, not even just from Israel, obviously. I have a question for you, Daniel, for real. What innovation do you feel is needed on college for Jewish students on college campuses today? I think there are about 400,000 Jewish students in any given year on college campuses. I mean, maybe this year would probably be different, but I think traditionally, because what innovation is about, innovation is it's just a tool. It's just a way of thinking. Like, there's a problem, we need to fix it. Let's think about it. Let's innovate, right? Let's be entrepreneurial. Let's think about it in a different way. What would you say? What problems right now is like pressing Jewish students on campuses today that we need some innovation for?
I mean, I think the obvious ones come to mind, and I think it's partially being tended to. We've spoken ad nauseum about anti-Semitism on campus and hate crimes against the Jewish community.
Right.
But I think when we talk about just Jews, not in any particular sect, not from whatever. I think we've seen innovation throughout the course of higher education in the country overall. There was. To think that now you can go to most mainstream, top 50 college campuses and have access to kosher food, have access to a Shabbat meal, a Shabbat service, that wasn't necessarily imaginable. And by the way, why, I went to Yeshiva University, and Yeshiva University very much existed in the 1900s because Jews had no comfort level. They were not at all accepted in mainstream college campus, certainly the Ivy Leagues like Harvard, Yale, all these places. So Yeshiva University created this niche, and they were innovative at the time to be able to offer an amazing secular education while keeping students engaged with their roots. So now I think going back to the question, and I think it's a little bit broader in the Jewish world in general, that we need to stop focusing on like, I don't know how to frame it. The things that make headlines are what people focus on. So what have Chabads and Hillels focus on? Like, we have a $20 million building on campus.
Right.
Privately fundraised. So now buildings aren't a thing. So glad you put $20 million into a building that we can't use in COVID times. So let's put more of our resources into outreach, into offering programs, staff, trips, things like this. I think Yehudi, a branch being of Olami, is really, it's Florida based now, but hopefully expanding. And they created.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
Right. So they created this environment. They have like Yehudi hubs, which they're not overly impressive buildings, but they're a place where college students can come and they can discuss, and they offer classes and professional development opportunities, but they also offer a lot of trips. And not just, they go to Poland, but they go to Costa Rica also. They went to Spain. They go to Israel. They'll go all over. And while they didn't sponsor this episode, I'm a big fan of what they do.
We did that, Salah.
Right, or Chabad. But to think on this level that we need to focus on what we're providing, because before we were providing, and this Hillel was very big into this, we offer the Jewish space on campus. If you're Jewish, even if you just want to study here, if you want to do homework, you want to schmooze, you want to play ping pong, that happens under our roof. So now I think we need to get away from that model and say, our building isn't everything. That's not what we should be focusing on. What are we offering our students? What do our students need? Because I think the challenge, and this is not recent, and it's not anti-Semitism, it's just Jewish students have a lot going on campus. So how are we keeping them engaged? What are we offering them? And I don't think it's saying, hey, come hear a shir from Rabbi Akiva, as much as I love your shirim. I think, right.
Comme ci, comme ça.
Okay, that's French. But that's, I think on college campus in particular, it's, by the way, what we do, relationship-based. Do you have a positive relationship with someone who's a great influence in your life, who will continue to instill values even after you've left home? So that's really, I don't know if that answered the question.
It's I don't know if there is an answer to the question. It's someone approached me today with that question, with thoughts about what are the next steps in a real way for campuses next year, coming out of COVID, coming out of Zoom, and this guy wants to make a big splash, a big splash. I'm speaking metaphorically on college campuses, and we were just brainstorming, thinking outside the box, or maybe thinking inside the box. And
what would be cool? I think if they created a, like, Chabad, everyone does it within their own echo chamber, but if you created a Jewish college conference, so
you could call it the JCC.
No,
Jewish College Conference.
That was almost funny. I think that was
hot on Amazon. What's a Jewish College Conference? What would that be?
No, in essence, because what happens is, Chabad runs a college Shabbaton in Crown Heights. So anyone who's affiliated with the Chabad houses on campus will go to that Shabbaton and meet people who are also engaged with Chabad. I'm pretty sure Hillel International has a national conference. I don't know what national conferences are going to look like in the world of COVID or post, but it doesn't matter what group you're affiliated with. If you're a Jewish student on a secular college campus,
interesting.
Once a year we're getting together and we can discuss what works on yours, because Chabad operates differently based off of who.
Let me ask you a question though. Yeah. Should that be? And I'm curious. Obviously, I mean, the viewers here, like, we obviously always want your opinion, but and certainly with this one, like, should that be for all 400,000 Jewish college students, or should it be for like a microcosm of them, like the leaders, the advocates, or the fellows? You know what I'm saying? Like, the 1% that's really leading their campuses or whatever. Not the 1% of the typical classic 1%. I'm saying, like, meaning 1% of those people, a few thousand of them should be the ones driving change, or should it be like we're all in? I don't know. Again, innovation. This is just, like, there's definitely issues with college campuses about, I know from students, and so do you, from not feeling comfortable to be openly Jewish, and when they are openly Jewish, facing anti-Semitism. Right. Again, harking back to Masha's words, which we really have to stop hiding being Jewish. It doesn't work. It works against us. So, there's room for growth, and we're coming out of this cave right now, of this Zoom cave, and maybe now more than ever is the time to change things up. We're wrapping up the show here.
I am curious, Akiva, if any of our viewers have ideas, I'm always curious to hear.
That's what I'm saying.
Please feel free to post in our comments or message us privately, and we'll share on your behalf. But this
is a real conversation happening now between myself and some interested people.
Also, I think on the flip side, one valuable thing that I don't think is focused enough, and one thing we strive to do very much on the Schmooze, is introduce the community to things they might not know about. So I think when we talk about a conference even for leaders, to be able to say, like, do you know the Louder Foundation? Like, the Louder Foundation put in $25 million to fight anti-Semitism. See if those resources are available to you. Like, there are more than just the groups that exist on college campus. Our community
There's a lot out there. Last week I asked, is there more good in the world or bad in the world? That was basically paraphrasing. Thank you to BK for his answer. He said more good. He said he believes that there's a lot more good happening in the world. What happens to be, I agree with this. I've asked this question many times. I think that there's a whole lot more good. And, to quote you, Daniel, if it bleeds, it leads. It leads.
It leads. That's not me. That very much.
Well, I know you didn't come up with the quote. I'm saying, you were saying to me
I have said that before.
If it bleeds, it leads. I mean, and the media, you look at mainstream media, and you think the world is falling apart, where the world is in a better place than it's ever been. And even when it wasn't in such a good place, like, there's still a lot of good happening. The average when I teach about evil in the world to students, I'm like, how many evil people do you know? And I'm asking the viewers, how many, like, evil people, like, you would throw them under the bus, literally. I'm not speaking metaphorically now. Like, they're evil. I don't know any evil people. I really don't. Like, I know of, I think that they're evil people, like certain terrorists, I think are definitely fall under the evil, not certain terrorists. I think all terrorists fall under the evil column, but like, I've never personally interacted with an evil person. I think that everyone's basically good. And we all make mistakes except for, me. But that's not true. I made a mistake once. Turned out I didn't, and I was mistaken. Here's the question for next week.
That humility is just so overwhelming.
If I had any more humility, I'd be perfect. I also want to thank Duve Jacoby for the beer cut on my zone joke. He introduced it to me. Here's a question for next week. Are you ready? I've asked this question to dozens of people. Okay.
Dozens.
Well, yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to switch it up. It was about Jeff Bezos, but I'm not going to do it now. Okay, I'm going to ask you a different question. Here's a different question.
Because we mentioned Amazon so much.
I've asked the following. No, I'm not going to do it. I asked it because you said that. Now I have to kind of prove you wrong. I asked the following question to hundreds of teens, actually hundreds. Okay, I've asked the following question, hundreds. That's hundreds. If you could either save your pet or a 90-year-old person who you've never met and you will never meet.
Okay, but this is a terrible question.
You will be surprised to find out what many people answer.
I don't like putting people in these positions. I don't know.
Okay, well, okay. No one wants to be in this position. Certainly not the pet or the 90.
Mentally in these positions. Whatever.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for that incredible question, Rabbi Akiva. I look forward to hearing what the answer is next week.
You don't look like you're looking for it, but it's going to be very interesting because I think it opens up an entire Pandora's box about where the ethical world is heading.
Okay, fair conversation piece. And with that, we are at the end of our show. So thank you so much, Rabbi Akiva. Always a pleasure schmoozing with you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Really, the pleasure is mine. And thank you again to our sponsors. Our sponsor this week, Results-Driven Innovation, for continuing keeping the schmooze going and bringing light, new ideas to the community, the greater community, and we look forward to seeing where that leads down the future. So
make sure to give us a like, a subscribe, and if you're interested in sponsoring us, hit us up.
Indeed.
It's been great schmoozing with you.
Next week.
Bye.